Welcome to today's presentation about the Ray-Pec journey toward developing a standards reference reporting system and effective assessment practices in each classroom. In order to achieve our mission of preparing each student for a successful and meaningful life, we continue to focus on answering the 4 questions of a professional learning community. PLC question number 1 is, what do we want our students to be able to know and do? Our answer at Ray-Pec is to have a guaranteed, meaning consistent, classroom to classroom, and viable, meaning doable in the time allowed curriculum. PLC question number 2, how will we know when our students have learned it? Our response at Ray-Pec continues to be using formative rather than summative assessment information to plan for instruction. PLC question number 3, how will we respond when our students are not learning or being successful? Our response will continue to be using formative, short-term information to plan for and then adjust instruction. PLC question number 4, how will we respond when our students already know and understand? We realize that some of our students need and want to be challenged at higher levels. Our response at Ray-Pec is to develop and create motivating and engaging lessons to meet the needs of our highest achieving students.
At the Raymore-Peculiar School District, it is our mission to educate each child to be successful learners. As we continue that journey, research shows us that assessment for learning is a key. As we build capacity in our adults to be lifelong learners, we have found that good assessment is a key tool to helping our students be successful. We have over 6,000 students in 11 school buildings, and we're growing on a yearly basis. It is imperative that our adults become lifelong learners as we become successful in educating each and every one of our children. Ray-Pec School District is a great place, and we're doing everything we can to be successful with each and every child.
According to research by Dr. Robert Marzano, a guaranteed and viable curriculum is the most powerful school-level factor in determining overall student achievement. At Raymore-Peculiar, we want to ensure that our intended curriculum is consistent with teachers at all buildings. We have decided what is most essential knowledge for our students so they can be college or career ready by the time they graduate. We began this venture by developing our power standards, which are what students should know and be able to do in each content and grade level. Power standards must align to classroom instruction and effective assessment practices to improve student achievement. Collaborative teams of teachers have come together to do this work.
Students should be given risk-free opportunities to practice concepts and skills during the learning process. However, research indicates that 13% of teachers report they never grade practice work. 93% of the teachers include other factors along with achievement into overall class grades. Less than 25% of teachers indicate that when a test has been too difficult for students, they take the time to change instruction and reteach. Research also indicates increased motivation in students when they are made aware of their progress toward a learning target. Because of this research, at Raymore-Peculiar, we began the Assessment for Learning journey in 2008 by sending cohorts of teachers through a professional development experience that focused on sound assessment, grading, and effective feedback practices. We have set about to create an environment that will encourage a balanced assessment system. This can be achieved by identifying purposeful learning targets based on the power standards.
We began to develop our power standards. We got together as a vertical team, K-12, and attempted to discuss what were the most overall themes in math that we needed to look at.
We used these state standards. We started looking at ACT and Common Core, and bringing all that together, we wanted to make sure that the progression of students was not overlapping, that we weren't spending too much time on one topic and not enough time on others.
Then the very next thing that I did was I got them out to my kids and my parents, because how enlightening was that for my kids to know in August what they were going to be responsible for on a test in October. So getting them out and making sure that everybody had a copy of them.
And we take those power standards and we started developing specific learning targets so that while power standards are a little bit more broad, the learning targets allow us to narrow down for students exactly what is expected underneath those power standards.
Learning targets are what I base all of my lessons on. We design every lesson around specific learning targets and make sure that they're posted for the students to see. We make sure the students are aware of them at the beginning of every lesson, and then all of our lessons are designed specifically around all of our learning targets.
When I'm designing lesson plans, I have to make sure that every lesson that I'm teaching will actually be a part of a prerequisite skill or be a skill builder that will lead up to that learning target.
And it's very specific for us, very specific for the students. And then I look and see what skills do I want the kids to learn under each learning target. And then that helps drive my instruction.
The learning targets are very specific. The students know exactly the concept that they're learning. They're learning at the end of this lesson, this is exactly what I need to know, and this is the level to which I need to know it. So it's been very beneficial for not only my teaching, but their learning process.
Through examples of strong and weak work, they can see the progression of how to make their work match the target or take it farther. And they can track their growth, and they can daily, if not a couple times during the day, see their growth continually progress.
Students are taking that and they're excited to come to class, and they're wanting to come in and master the learning target they struggled with yesterday, so they can go home and tell their parents that they reached that 3 or that 4. They're so close, which is really exciting as an educator.
Everybody district-wide is using the exact same thing, so it doesn't matter whether you go into Shoal, Stonegate, Peculiar, Creekmore, all the kids are going to get the exact same education and master the exact same skills.
I would easily compare AFL to professional learning communities. I mean, we want to know what the kids need to learn. How do we assess that they know it? What do we do if they don't know it? What do we do if they do know it?
It's also about how we design tests so that we're not giving an overall percentage for a student where they have no idea what skill they still need to work on. It's about not counting homework as part of your overall grade, because homework is just practice, and students' ability to perform on a skill is going to change as they continue to go through the process of learning the learning target.
I think it's a mindset. And it's a practice that you do every second in your classroom, where you are constantly observing and assessing the kids to find out where you're going to go next.
It means that I'm going to be giving assessments in the beginning to figure out exactly what my students need, so that I'll be planning my lessons differently.
And then we take that data and we get back in our collaborative groups and decide what are we going to do to meet the needs of the kids, and how are we going to extend those that need extension.
I give descriptive feedback. I give them tips and pointers, not only on the formative written assessments, but also as I'm talking to them in class and telling them, helping them along the way to get a better understanding of what they might be doing right, what they might be doing wrong, and which areas they may want to strengthen in.
I know which students need to be in a reteaching group, which students are ready to move on to the next skill for the next learning target, and which kids are ready for that enrichment that I can provide on the next math lesson or reading lesson, whatever the learning target may go with.
It is about letting students practice. It's about letting students make mistakes and fail and learn from those failures, as opposed to being penalized by them.
I felt that the assessments really helped me figure out how to do things, and if you didn't get it right the first time, you always had a chance to retake it.
I can improve on things that I don't get, and I'm always excited to see my teachers, and I'm always excited that they can help me learn.
It's different because in past years, like, they just mark it wrong and toss it back at you. She describes what you did wrong and hands it back, so you know what you did wrong and how you need to fix it.
Well, I have found that they can't wait to come back the next day and try it again. They want to meet that learning goal when they're tracking their own progress, and when they know exactly what it is that they're trying to meet. They're all of a sudden accountable for their learning, and so they want to meet it. So I have many students that'll say they can't wait to come back tomorrow.
When I'm working with students with disabilities, I'm finding that every day can be a struggle, because it seems like such a large step to get to that learning target. But if you break it down like a roadmap for students, then they can take those small steps to get them to master their learning target, and then eventually to that power standard, and we know that they can get there.
Sometimes it's so easy to go off in a completely opposite direction of where the kids need to be, and the learning targets help me keep focused and help the kids stay on track.
It allows me to provide explicit, specific feedback on one learning target at a time,
and assess all children on that learning target to push them to the next level. So it just helps me stay organized and concise and track student growth towards one specific skill at a time.
When our first group went through the assessment for learning training, that was one of the biggest things we brought back to our building was descriptive feedback.
That has allowed students and teachers to better understand precisely where they are in the learning progression. Also, the students understand specifically what their mistakes are and how to correct them.
Has provided our staff or teachers with a next step or direction to help coach kids toward as the students are learning the targets that are set for them. It creates this path and helps kids navigate towards that mastery of the learning target.
Flexible grouping is a huge part of every lesson in our classrooms. Students know that all of the groups are flexible, and there's a very good chance that a student might be a high achiever in one area and need some remediation in the next.
They may move in and out of groups depending on the targets toward the power standard, and so it's just always where they're at and keeping them growing.
Kids are always all over the place. You're not going to be in the group with the same kids over and over again. It is that you think you might have missed. You already know what you did? Kids are hesitant at first because they feel like they're going to be labeled into this group, but once they see that it's a very fluid group and that you're only there just to meet your needs, they like coming back to the groups and they like getting what they need so that they can go on and progress in their learning.
If she saw you struggling a lot, she would work with you independently and talk about what you're struggling at, and if you're not, she would just call you back in groups with a bunch of people to help you work. If you have the same learning target, then you can work together with someone to make sure you both improve.
The most important thing in order to get people on board and ready to change is you have to develop a growth mindset.
But the great thing about it is you break it down into pieces and start with the curriculum and start with developing the essential questions, your power standards, your learning targets. And then once you understand where you're trying to go, you can go backwards and say, okay, what assessment pieces do I need to have in place to get there? What do I need to do in my classroom to ensure my students are ready for those assessment pieces? And then how can they track the entire process so they know where they are along that continuum?
Our teachers have been very open and receptive and really have led the cause, especially the ones on the forefront of helping those other teachers come along in that change of mindset and letting them know that we need to be constantly assessing the students to figure out where they're at so we can change our instruction, develop different teaching strategies to help those students that are both struggling academically as well as those students that have already mastered the content so that we can challenge them.
Assessment for Learning has completely transformed my teaching style and my kids' learning style, because I'm no longer teaching something just because it's on the calendar for today. I'm teaching something because it's what they need, it's powerful, and it's important.
It is risky, it is uncertain. It is incredibly exciting because I'm seeing how much more motivated my students are, how much more willing they are to put in the extra time to learn the skills that they were struggling with, how much more willing they are to even do more work, how much more excited they are to do additional work, and just to challenge them further, challenge themselves further. They're not afraid to take risks, which is good because if I'm taking a risk, I like to see that they're willing to take risks too.
For the first time, I think I've really focused on kids who need to go like from a level 3 to a level 4 and showing them what are the fine things that they can do to get there, how can they study on their own, and kind of challenging those kids a little bit more.
Years ago, I had the common red grade book that everybody had, and I would have my subjects and I would put their percentage grade of when they passed a test or a homework grade or whatever.
It's not that many years ago that my grade book just had the page number, the assignment, and then a score for each student, which really didn't provide much detailed information on where that child was in relation to meeting the learning target for the day.
My grade book was a mess. I had so many different types of assignments in there, homework, quizzes, labs, and now it's just based on the learning targets.
Now it just shows their learning. I can see their progression of learning instead of just a grade. So now it just gives me more information instead of just a percentage.
In regular classes, like if you didn't do your homework, you got a 0 out of 20 or whatever. But in these classes, it's more about getting the concept rather than just memorization on a definition or words.
Because each quiz was like individualized to a certain
concept, and then the test is like all the quizzes put together. So like if I did really bad on one quiz, then I know like this is what I really need to be focusing on, not so much the other stuff.
I am able to sit down with a parent and show them my grade book, and it's a very easy communication tool now between me and the parent to help them understand how many attempts it took their child to master a certain learning target and where they are on any given day.
Collaboration is nice for us to be able to get together and make sure that we're all on the same page so that we all get a chance to provide the same learning targets to the students, to make sure that our assessments are the same, so that way every student is getting the best of the best.
For instance, in geometry, we've got 8 different teachers that teach geometry, and we want to ensure that our kids are coming out of geometry learning the exact same learning targets so that they can all move fluently.
We want to make sure that all kids have the opportunity for these practices. So coming back and sharing with your department or your team members your grade level is crucial so that all kids get this opportunity to use this type of this learning where mistakes are okay and we're going to go back and fix them.
The PLC is one of our strongest attributes here at Ray-Peck High School and in the Ray-Peck School District. Our teachers are always willing to collaborate openly and discuss the data.
And so the collaboration is quite amazing. It's neat to see even today as teachers are developing those common assessments. It's not just Eagle Glen teachers or Brattle Ridge teachers, it's us together as a team.
Teachers have learned to distribute the work associated with creating multiple assessments to accommodate the need to reteach as well as enrich the learning of their students.
Learning has become a collaborative process between the student and the teacher, and I think before it was probably a teaching process. Not saying that there wasn't a lot of learning taking place, because there was, but it was centered around the teacher and focused on the teacher instructing the lesson.
But it is involving my students more heavily. It is giving students the data and information they need to become more thoughtful learners. It is giving my parents the data and information they need to help and support their students. It is giving teachers the data they need to develop their lessons and their curriculum, because it really does end up going back and guiding our curriculum.
If one of my athletes had skipped an entire practice, that wouldn't be okay. They would be asked to come in and they would be asked to redo that practice and make up that practice until they were caught up. But in the educational world, if Billy skips a homework assignment, we hammer him with a 0, and then we say, here's your test, you're going to take your test, you're not prepared for it, but we're going to ask you to take this test and fail it anyways. And that's where you lose those unmotivated, unwilling kids, is because they realize, I'm just going to fail, yet here you are, you're putting me in the game, so to speak, and the whole world is going to know that I'm going to fail.
It takes the stress off of you of having to like finish all your homework, get all your points, like it just focuses more on like, do I understand it? Yes, then my grade is going to reflect that.
I feel that now they're more comfortable to ask questions. I don't see them running over to their neighbor anymore and furiously copying down answers before class starts. And say, on last night's homework assignment, what questions do we have? And students will raise their hand and be like, can you please explain number 4 again? And I'll give them leading questions. It's not me just regurgitating the answers. It's more about just that collaborative effort. I'm an instructor one day and then a facilitator the next.
From a district perspective, we are excited about our progress toward a guaranteed and viable curriculum and the changes in classroom practices that Assessment for Learning has provided.
We believe the most effective way to meet the needs of each student and achieve our mission is to have a guaranteed and viable curriculum, assessment for learning in each classroom, use formative assessment to plan for and then adjust instruction, and create challenging lessons in each classroom. Our students are achieving at the highest levels in our district's history, and we have our staff members to thank. Thank you for watching today's presentation.